All right, you guys should be seeing my screen. So, hello guys, I'm Drew Robb. I am the AI advisor at ERP Suites. I have been at ERP Suites for about 5 years now. Started in the product space and then moved into more of a data analytics, data consulting role. And then the past few years have ventured into the great world of AI. And my main job is really education of AI to our customer base, our user groups. I present at different user groups, different conferences. So that's my primary role, is to really help people get started with their AI journey. And they may be, just getting into AI, learning about the technologies. They may be just starting to think about some use cases that may apply to their AI journey. Or they may just be fully along and just need some help getting over the finish line. Wherever you may be on your AI journey, the biggest thing I do is help you get to the finish line. So with today, and sorry if my voice is a little straggly, I was dealing with a cold earlier this week, but hopefully you can hear me well. But today we're going to focus on really building strong AI use cases. Because that's really where you need to get started. A lot of companies that we talk to and a lot of customers we talk to really just jump into AI without formulating a very strong use case, really not even defining what is the difference between AI and not AI. So hopefully we can shed some light on that for you today with this presentation, and hopefully you can get a lot out of it. Now, one caveat I will say before I start, I am not an artistic person. Some of the examples I showed today, hopefully I can guide you along and they're not as confusing, but I do have some graphs, some different images, as far as steps for the AI, or for the building out a use case. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat today, and I'll help you through it. But yeah, with that, let's get started. Pretty short agenda today. So the first thing is just the importance of building a strong AI use case. Why is this such an important thing? Why is it so important in our AI journey, right? The first part is really education, getting people educated on AI system services. I did an AI 101 session yesterday. So that's really the groundwork. The next thing you do is really, really show the importance of building out a strong AI use case. The next thing is really just the 4 key steps for building a strong AI use case, right? Really, it's just 4 main steps, and we'll go over those today. And hopefully it seems pretty streamlined and it's understandable for you guys. There's a lot of different examples and a lot of different ways you can do it. We call it systems thinking or design thinking, but just following these steps will help you in your company provide a better way to build out strong AI use cases. With that, we'll start with the importance of building out use cases. If you guys got to see the keynote that Julie Holmes presented yesterday morning, I felt like it was very impactful and aligns a lot with what at ERP Suites, what we envision is the importance for building out a strong use case, which is really company buy-in. You started with that, right? It's not even just the executives getting buy-in from the executives for budget. It's also getting buy-in from middle management and even the main business users or end users of a potential AI solution. It just really it's all for like AI adoption inside your business. It's all the way up and down, because that would really promote usability in your business, and help you really define really good use cases from top down. And that really goes into kind of the second point here, right? Aligning with business goals. You probably have a year-long goal or 3-year-long goals of things you want to accomplish. You shouldn't have to build a whole new roadmap for your business, whether it be products, whether it be other parts of your business. You don't want to build a whole new roadmap. You want AI to kind of intersect with that, and these AI solutions to intersect with kind of day-to-day operations, and really just streamlining those pain points in your business. So really aligning your business goals with these future AI solutions is very important. And then lastly, it's really about maximizing ROI. So the biggest thing we're going to talk about in kind of the fourth step of this presentation is really prioritizing use cases, really showing the impact versus level of effort for these use cases, and really showcasing that and defining that so you can understand what sort of ROI you will get from these AI solutions. And another quick thing to keep in mind as well is it comes back to adoption and change management, as I mentioned before. And it's really understanding that we need to promote usability in our business, because if our employees aren't using these new AI solutions to better their job, then it's all for naught. We're just implementing AI just to implement AI into our current business processes. So just really want to highlight the importance of building a strong use case. We feel like these three key values are kind of the top end of that and the importance of that. So moving forward here, I've listed out the steps of use case development, and this is the 4 we're going to really focus on today. So really determining AI versus what is not AI, right? Understanding solutions that are in fact AI versus might just be automation solutions, might just be other solutions in your business. That's a key factor when looking into use case development. The second one is identifying pain points in your business, and really what that stems from is actually mapping out the current processes and truly understanding them at their different phases, steps. What are the opportunities? What are the pain points inside of those processes? That is fully, and probably one of the most important things is understanding the processes so we can implement an AI solution more effectively and really understand what problems we are trying to solve. The third thing is really just brainstorming an AI use case, taking those current processes, those pain points you got from the prior step, and starting to brainstorm out potential AI use cases with the AI technology that would be involved in building out that use case. Lastly is just prioritizing use cases. We don't want to try to tackle these all at once. I have listed here that we can prioritize 3 or 5 use cases, but really if you want to start with 1, that's completely fine. But we really got to get down from these brainstorm current problems and processes that may appear in different parts of your team, whether it's finance, sales, manufacturing. We really want to narrow down those use cases and make these solutions more applicable and easier to implement as we narrow those down. So just keep in mind as I go through these more detailed slides, these 4 steps is what we're going through. And we'll start to illustrate these here shortly. So just keep these 4 steps in mind as we go through these steps here. So with that, the step 1 is determine AI versus not AI solution. So the biggest thing is just knowing that AI does not solve every single problem, right? You don't want to just implement AI into your business. You don't want to just do it to get a competitive advantage against your customers or your current market, right? You really want to identify that right problem, as we talked about, that fits that specific AI use case to build out the right solution. And I apologize that the bottom portion of this is a little tiny, but I will go through the kind of problems to look for. These are the 4 things that we found, and there's other presentations that we presented at AI Week on these 4 problems. So the first one is manual work steps, especially if they're repeatable. So we talked about that. I had actually had a presentation yesterday on a manufacturing digital assistant that moved work orders to different work centers. So just think of different processes in your business that are repeatable, that may be, sales order entry is one I think of as well. Just different manual processes is something to really look at. When thinking of an AI solution, you can also build off of that. The second one is analyzing data to identify anomalies and patterns in your data. So that's really just anomaly detection as well as predictive analytics. Fraud detection is a big one that comes up, and not just basic fraud detection where you're figuring out incorrect data, but going into it more deeply. Another one we can really think about is something along the lines of, we actually have a presentation on this tomorrow, in our smarter analytics session, is really warehouse analysis or sales analysis. Really get into fine detail and start predicting the movement of inventory from one warehouse to another warehouse and the cost savings of that. Start thinking of just predictions inside of your data that you can start to gain insights on with visualizations, dashboards. The third one is reading through documents, text, emails, images. And what I mean by that, and we have a session later on today on this as well, is really document understanding and image understanding, right? So using these tools out there to understand and read documents and get the data that's not so structured, it's really unstructured, into your certain system, so you can, 1, gain insights off of them, and 1, just for data quality, master data management. So think of that one as well. That's very important. Actually, one that I think is really cool, this 4th one here, help with development and testing of code. So we actually have a session tomorrow. It's on Code Assist, given by Jason Creighton, which is awesome because it will start, this sort of AI tool will start helping developers develop and test their code. And one thing we think about in the JD Edwards space, and one place ERP Suites wants to take it, is it to help us start developing more orchestrations. Because if you saw my session yesterday, orchestrations plus AI is really the power that is behind a lot of the solutions we build out. So having this sort of automated orchestration building is just, the possibilities are endless for efficiency. So really think of those four things when we move forward here for building out use cases. Those are kind of the four main ones we saw in the enterprise talking to customers that we want to tackle. With that, moving forward, digital assistants provide customers. Can everybody hear me okay? Sorry, I think I lost connection there. Is it okay now though? Good. Okay. Just making sure. I'm gonna jump back a little bit. Sorry, I saw I lost connection. Um, Awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for validating that. So I hope you heard before. I was just going over AI versus not AI, and these are some of the examples. Obviously, there's more. Talk to our team, talk to us, and we can start to think about and start to realize and really think of those four AI solutions that I mentioned above, and really start to think about those. And that's where you really glean the AI solutions that we will build out after we define a use case. So moving forward, again, sorry about the technical difficulty that popped up there. We're going to move on to kind of step two here, right? Identifying pain points, because that's really the crust of building out a strong AI use case, is having a good, strong pain point developed. So I know there's a lot of information here. What I wanted to give you guys here is just example activities for identifying pain points. So that first one there, and I won't go through all of them, is empathy mapping. So really just understanding how an end user feels when they go through a process, what they say, do, feel, their thoughts. Another quick one is just doing a quick one-on-one interview with the end user to understand that process. And then, there's also other ones, a process walkthrough, especially in the manufacturing space, actually walking through and seeing how inventory is moved throughout the warehouse is just another example of a pain point activity we can do. But what we're going to really focus on today is called journey mapping, is the pain point activity we're going to do, because it really gives a detailed outline of an entire process, as well as focuses on the tasks, the challenges, the various opportunities, and the goals you'll get out from a pain point when you start thinking about it. So I'm going to move forward here, and this is where we're going to walk through these steps, right? So the example journey mapping steps. So first of all, you just need to develop a journey map, right? Just an outline, which I have an example on the next slide, and I'll show you what that looks like. The second step is choosing a persona. So this is really choosing an end user or a person who is involved in this process that you're trying to enhance, resolve, figure out what the issues are, the bottlenecks. The third one is choose a scenario. So really the scenario is the whole end-to-end process. What does that process look like for a user? And then the fourth is define the various phases that are involved in this process. And then the fifth is define interaction. So how are they interacting? What other processes inside of that are they doing? Six is really just the user's internal emotions. And then lastly, really defining the opportunities, the ownership, the goals, and the things you want to get out of this journey map. So with that, here comes my artistic ability. I'm so excited to show this. I hope you guys can see this. So I gave the manufacturing digital assistant example yesterday. So I just kind of wanted to walk you through this example of a potential journey map using a material planner in the top left. So we're using a material planner. The scenario is really just them scheduling work orders to work centers. And the end goal here is the ability to schedule work orders to work centers and move work orders to alternate work centers if they need to be created to get orders out more quickly, if capacity has been met. So for example here, what I want you guys to focus on is how this is broken down. So you'll see at the top there, the top left is at phases, right? So you got the schedule work orders to work center. Then you have a work center for the second one. And then you have move work orders to alternate work center. And below that are various steps. So when talking to this customer, they had to write down where certain work center or work orders were going in Excel sheets. They had to enter data manually in JD Edwards. They had to get that information from JD Edwards Work Center and then enter work center information to an alternative routing. And then they had to manually change the work order. So what I'm basically dictating there is just a lot of different steps located in those phases. So you just want to map out every specific steps. From there, you want to move down into the goals. So what's the goal? What are we trying to accomplish when mapping out this current process? You know, the first goal is to automate the work orders to specific work centers, right? The second one would be automate creating a new work center for new work orders. And the last one is the bulk transfer of work orders to the new work center if a work center is at capacity. So you start with phases, steps, goals, and then you move into pain points. What pain points are we trying to solve? And as you can see, too many steps, data inconsistencies when inputting that data in the JD Edwards for the first one. The second one is too many steps again, and then it takes way too long. There's confusion as well when trying to move certain work orders to work centers. And then lastly, it just really compounds on itself, right? Too many steps, takes too long. So you can kind of see how we map these out. We can start to see what our current pain points are, as well as the entire process and how we can implement this. This will be important as well when we start to build out an AI solution to really understand the discovery of these pain points in full. Because only then can we implement a strong AI solution into your business. And then lastly, what are really the opportunities? So I have the automation of movement of work orders at the bottom left there. But really, what are the opportunities that can go beyond this as well? You got to think about those. Being able to potentially predict where work orders move from a certain work center. Eventually get to autonomous ERP. We can start to list out all of those potential opportunities here for what we would look at, like, what one AI solution would look like for this specific current pain point. And lastly, who would be the ownership of this? So obviously the customer's business analyst understands this process through and through. They would be the owner of this process. As well as I put the ERP Suites team as advisors. We would help you through this process as well when implementing an AI solution. So if we move on here to brainstorm AI use cases, this would be the third step. So we understand our entire process through and through. We understand the phases, the steps, the goals, right? We understand various opportunities. We want to move forward here to brainstorming of these. So there's a few examples here. We have like a how we might activity, and that focuses on clear processes discussed in the pain point phrase. We can do reverse brainstorming. It's just a different way of thinking where you think of the solution and gets the, you get the current process, needs, approach, benefits, competition. These are all good potential brainstorming activities. The example I'm going to show you today is what's called AI possibility mapping. And it really understands the entire current process in full from that journey map, and it takes it further to a brainstorming phase where you can start to attach AI solutions to various current processes you've mapped out in full. So basically what I'm saying is all the legwork was done before, and now we get to the point where we understand the entire current process. Let's move on to actually connecting these current processes to AI technologies that can fit your business needs and actually solve the problem. So moving forward into the steps of AI possibility mapping. So the first, as I mentioned, was the gathering of insights from the journey map. What you're going to get out of those, what do those look like? The second step is discuss and group potential AI use cases. That's very important as well. So if ones are similar, we think of similar solutions out there, we can start to group those together into one singular use case. And then the fourth one is document AI use cases and really start to understand the technology involved with those and start to document them in this brainstorming session. So what I'm going to show you here, and again, very color coordinated, are the current processes on the left. So the ones that you see on the top left in that more oranges color are the planner moving work orders and the manual entering of a work center. So those two are involved in that journey map process that I showed you before, but they can be solved with a work order routing digital assistant, right? Another one we can look at is kind of in the middle there, the training of new employees at your business can be an onboarding digital assistant as well. And then another one we can look at as well is like for the bottom left there, issuing forecasting demand. So issuing for demand and forecasting demand. We can use an embedded AI demand forecasting. So we can kind of see here, it's really a discussion, right? Starting to understand what current problems we're going to solve and what sort of AI solution we are going to use. One last one I'll point out, just to be different from the digital assistants as well as the embedded AI, is the defective rates and rework costs. So basically, that's sending images into JD Edwards and seeing if that image is defective or complete. We can start to use that as a potential different use case. So trying not to get too technical here, but just showing the breadth of different solutions that will come from current processes we've mapped out before in that journey mapping. And when we brainstorm these, right, we start to brainstorm these solutions, we start to see the connect between these problems and the current brainstorm solutions. So moving forward to prioritizing an AI use case. That's the fourth step here, and that's the most important. We have so many use cases out there, and as I've said in the past, we can't deal with them all at once. We want, probably heard from Oracle earlier today, a crawl, walk, run approach, right? Knock out one or two or three, right? Just start to prioritize those and figure out which ones we want to tackle moving forward. So here we have the prioritizing of activities and examples. What we could use here is an impact versus effort matrix. So this really helps us understand and determine which use case takes the most effort versus the level of impact. This is where we come back to the point that I mentioned before of return on investment, right? What's our best return on investment on these AI use cases that we've actually gotten from our current pain points, right? So we can start to map that out via a matrix. Is one example. Another one is also called dot voting, which I'll walk through here, where that one is really just, you start to prioritizing use cases. The biggest thing with this is step one, you sort ideas based on complexity of implementation. So you got the top most complex to the bottom most complex. The second one here is really just determining ROI, and this is what I'm talking about. It's more of a discussion, determining ROI based on t-shirt sizes. So small, medium, large, which I'll talk about next in the image I'll show. The third one is dot vote on best ideas. Now, this isn't an end-all, be-all just based on, who, the impact versus level of effort sort of thing. It could be on resources, time, like what sort, like if you're in finance, if you're in manufacturing, if you're in sales, what team can we allocate to actually implement this solution? What level of effort is it going to take from your side as well is also very important when starting to implement these solutions. As well, a lot of customers we talk to are really intrigued on, it goes back to the executive buy-in, really getting that quick win into your business, showing executives, showing upper level management that this AI solution is very profitable and efficient and improves ROI. That's another important thing we really got to think about here too, when prioritizing these use cases as well. So these sort of things will go into this. This will just sort of help how to show level of complexity really. So I'm gonna go forward to this next one. So this is really the prioritizing phase, right? So we look at the brainstorm ideas here. So as I showed before, we'll start with those top left, the work order routing DA is one thing we looked at there. Supply chain management is another one. So you saw those all from the initial one or the previous step. What you're going to see is those brainstorm ideas listed on the left. and then you have the complexity pyramid in the middle. So on the bottom there, we'll go through a few here. So you got the RAG training, employee training for an agent. So that's the bottommost. That's just training customers on onboarding, them being able to understand manuals sent in. Work order routing DA, since we fleshed that out earlier in the current process, that will be also another one there. And then the DA from inventory management, and as you see, we move up there. We just validate that the supply chain digital assistant is the most complex one to deal with. And then after that gets done, after we do the complexity pyramid, we move into dot voting. And then from dot voting, this is where the people that are working with this, people who are involved in the business process, the managers, the CEOs, they'll decide based on all the information we've gathered in earlier steps, what are the best solutions to actually prioritize. And that's what you're going to see on that final frame there. Is you're going to see that we prioritize these top three use cases to really look into. So the work order routing DA, the training employee agent, and the embedded AI for demand forecasting were really the three we decided to focus on based on the prior 4 steps above. So with that, those are really the 4 steps there. So it's all about understanding AI versus not AI. Really going into understanding to a full extent your current pain points and processes, and then moving into brainstorming use cases, right? You can brainstorm as many use cases you want. It could be upwards of 20, because just knowing that 4th step, you will then prioritize them in the 3 or 5 that we can take forth into what we call, an implementation roadmap, which is also another session that I'm giving tomorrow afternoon. So feel free to join that, and we'll show you how to take this idea further into actually, what does the development roadmap look like? Who would be involved as far as resources? What is the budgeting needed? Go into more use case, what is needed as far as technologies. That's all going to be shown tomorrow in that presentation. So would love for you guys to join, and we can move this getting started forward. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Any questions from the group?